Thanks, everyone, for joining us for our season finale, the 2023 NFL season review, our last episode before we take a little break. The dust has settled on the Super Bowl. We're a few more days removed. Joe's feeling a bit chirpier after the Super Bowl on Sunday. And we're going to take a look back. We probably should have done this in the week off between the championship games and the Super Bowl, but we're going to do it now. And it's going to be a nice way to put a bow on our very first season, our very first full season of Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. And we've made it through, gents. We have made it to the end. How are we feeling?
Grand, yeah. What a season, I think. It's been a very fun one, hasn't it? First full year. I think very consistent. We every week got our 2 episodes out, smashed it. Yeah, I think we've done a great job, lads.
Get 2 episodes a week out every single week for 21 weeks.
Yeah, I think the quality's got better as we went along without, bigging ourselves up too much. But I think it's been a great first year.
Yeah, I think it's been really fun. Just keep it, obviously we keep it up with NFL anyway, but it just makes it even more, keeps it interesting and able to chat about what's happening in the world of NFL without just, messaging. It's good to get out in the open. It's been fun.
Good to talk out and good to hang out with you guys for 60 odd hours of whatever it's been. The total time of recording has been for the episodes over the
amount of times you've said you look forward to a break makes me doubt that a little. But
look,
and I think we all made a healthy profit over the season as well, which again probably wouldn't have done if we weren't doing a dedicated podcast to it. So
very true, actually. Yes, ended up being a good one for sure, and we'll get into that. So that's the purpose of the season review episode. So before the season, we made some pre-season picks around, with our bets, who's going to win the divisions, who's going to get to the Super Bowl, who's going to win it. Joe, the only one correctly picking the Super Bowl matchup, just not the winner, unfortunately. But yeah, we're going to go through that, and I want to say I'm not looking forward to this, but I don't know. Maybe I did better than I remember, because I think it was a bit fair to middling. So we'll have a look at how we all did with our preseason selections, talk that through, and also we've got our Good Teams and Great Teams Cover alternative awards to finish off the season. We've just had the NFL honors about a week ago, but we're going to have a look at some alternative ones. So maybe just slightly different take on that. A reminder, as always, go give us a follow. Good Teams and Great Teams Cover over on Spotify, GTW_GTC on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and soon to be Rumble, which is just like a different version of YouTube. I've discovered.
Can't believe I'm learning about social media on here too.
Yeah, I thought I've heard about Rumble and I've seen other people using it. I was like, oh, what's Rumble? Let's go check it out. And it's just YouTube.
Well, you know what to say. Let's get ready to.
Hey. So yeah, we'll do that once I've kind of worked it all out. And hopefully we'll be up on more podcast, more audio places, Apple, what are the others? Amazon, all the other ones as well, because Byron's going to work that out. Let's get into it then. Do I have to go first, Joe?
It's how we've always done it, Paul. So, you had the big playoff run. So let's...
You know what? Great point there. And well done for reminding people. I was 13 for 4, almost to 76% in the playoffs, not including because a lot of prop bets, but I hit eight bets on Super Bowl night. So just remember that. It's not how you started, it's how you finish.
Or actually a podcast which actually owns up to our predictions and don't just hide them away and pretend it never happened and only just call out our successful ways. Let's show what we did say and why did it go wrong, and what can we learn from this?
What can we learn from next season? There's a bit of self-scout in this, isn't it, really, for next year more than anything. So it's not about creating an episode and getting out there. It's about self-scouting so we don't make the same mistakes next year. And hopefully, if you followed us, you won't make the same mistakes next year. So let's start with our win totals. So I went, is that 8 for 8? So bang 500 for my win totals for the course of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, 8 for 8. And I felt a little bit bad near the end. I got a couple I think I got hit with a couple in week 18, which were killers, which was a shame. but shows that Vegas makes a good line. So just quickly right offside, Cowboys over 10.5. Dallas Cowboys won the division with 12 wins. Buffalo Bills over 10.5. So they won their division with 11 wins. Falcons under 8.5 wins. They sucked. Broncos under 8.5 wins. They also sucked, but got a bit better after a horrendous start. The New Orleans Saints, under 9.5 wins. I think they got 8. Oh, no, they finished bang on 9.
They got 9,
yeah. Yeah, San Fran over 11.5. They finished on 12 wins as well. I find that weird, by the way, just looking at the Cowboys and Niners finished with the same record, given how wildly the gap between those two teams is insane. The Titans under 7.5 wins, which was 6, and then the Commanders under 6.5 wins. I think they've got 4. By the way, in our preseason view, when we were doing the state of the divisions and all that, I was so close. Commanders 4-13 to get the number 1 overall pick. So close.
Good shout.
Yeah, so close. I'll take that one as a win. But more importantly, Joe, let's look at the losers. The Eagles meltdown. The Eagles were 10-1. The Eagles were that one isn't on me. The Eagles were 10-1 after they'd gone and beat the Chiefs, they beat the Bills, they beat the Cowboys. They've
got the defensive rookie of the year.
Well, we'll get to that. How did they not win 2 more games from week 12 onwards?
Well, apparently the 49ers defense figured out Jalen Hurts and everyone just copied. So see how that goes next year. But yeah, it felt like it melted down. It felt like obviously there was certainly, with a 10-1 record, there was things behind the scenes which weren't quite right. And I think obviously with all the DCs, both of them being fired, and getting new people in, it's a team which, they somehow polished the shit at the start of the year, but by the end it all just melted down. And yeah, I'm curious how that'll go in the future with the head coach. Is he going to be able to get the locker room back on board? Is Jalen Hurts, has people figured him out, which is being mentioned, and obviously it could change year on year, but I think that's big going into next year, especially after giving him a huge contract after how well he played the year before, and in the Super Bowl he was one of the best Super Bowl performance, not on the winning side. So yeah, bit of a meltdown.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you've not got it up in front of you, but does anyone want to take a guess what the Philadelphia Eagles net points were for the season? Bearing in mind they were 10-1.
Minus 60?
I'm thinking it'll just be slightly over. I think it'll be like 12.
5.
Wowzers.
10-1, and you got anyway. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's crazy that didn't hit. LA Rams, LA Rams under 6.5 wins. So I thought they were going to be quite bad. They had a rough year 2022, didn't they? But it was all of the injuries. And I don't know, I thought age. I know they had those guys coming back, but it's like Cooper Kupp missed a lot of time as well. Didn't expect, we had Puka Nacua, the explosion of Puka Nacua, the explosion of Kyron Williams. Matt Stafford was back playing great, playing great at the quarterback position. Yeah, they end up winning 10 games and getting into the playoffs.
Yeah. I had the Rams being really bad as well. So I was there with you.
What were they, 5 wins in 2022? I think they were 5-12 in 2022.
Yeah.
So I thought they might win, win another game. But that one was pretty bad.
Yeah, and they got 2. Well, it was all about the draft, really, as well. I think they hit massively. They had an offensive Rookie of the Year runner-up who probably any other year would have won it quite easily, and also
the wide receiver there's ever been.
Yeah. And an edge rusher who I think he came second or third in the defensive Rookie of the Year. So when you hit on both positions and they managed to get, I think that was coming into the year was like, they've got a lot of young players who are going to be able to cope with this year and the league, and they certainly did, and the future's looking bright when they've still got the core players who are sticking around.
Yeah, absolutely. Still got the stars and stars delivering. So yeah, wrong on the Rams. I felt I got kind of shafted with this one a little bit. Raiders under 6.5 wins, and they fired a coach mid-season.
Yeah. If they'd kept McDaniels, you'd have won this one.
Yeah, they ended up with 8 wins. Antonio Pierce did a great job coming in. Started with Jimmy G. We ended up with Aiden O'Connell. It's some wild wins in there. They beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead on Christmas Day, and had a kind of real strong finish to the year. But
biggest Raiders win ever, I believe, against the Chargers.
Yes, the 63, whatever it was on Thursday Night Football. On Thursday Night Football. I felt I was there with that one because I was expecting them to be bad under Josh McDaniels. Just maybe, thought he might got fired, but maybe not so soon. And that's the Mark Davis pulling the trigger early is what killed me. So I think the take was right. Sadly, it didn't come in. The Chicago Bears looked awful. I was over 7.5 wins on Chicago. Looked terrible to start the year. Nearly got there.
Yeah, second half of the season, I think the Bears were one of the better teams in the NFL. I said this a lot in the second half of our shows. I kept taking them on the spreads. I think it sounds obvious. If you got another week, I think you'd have got it. Just Vegas gets the line right.
And the killer was how many? What were they? 24 points up on the Broncos.
Yeah, 25, I think maybe. Yeah,
25. Yeah, the Broncos came back to beat them. 31 was it 31-28 week 3 or week 4 maybe. So that was the killer. I have that game, make that. So that was sad. Falcons pretty bad. Oh no, we've discussed that one. Sorry. Colts under 6.5 wins. I had Colts to be one of the worst teams in the league. I think I had them at 4 wins as well, which is why I love the line at under 6.5. But they proved me wrong. Even with Gardner Minshew, they ended up with a winning record.
I think the head coach has proved a few people. I don't know if you say right, but yeah, obviously he was there when Hurts had the big year, and obviously he's carried that over. So, and Richardson did look exciting at the start. So, especially when he went out, I think a lot of people thought, oh yeah, they're going to be, under 6.5 wins. But Minshew Mania nearly got them to the playoff. But
they were playing for a division week. They're playing for the division in week 18.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the way it worked out, if they'd beat the Texans, they'd won the division and been in the playoffs. So yeah, under 6.5 was a bad one. Jets over 9.5. That went 4 plays into the season.
Yeah.
I won't be the only one that got stung by the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, but contenders to certainly bounce back in 2024. The Jets finished with 6-7 wins. Still managed to get 7 wins. But yeah, not the double digits that was required. The Seattle Seahawks under 8.5. I had again. I thought my take on the Seahawks was actually pretty bang on, really. One game out here, but I did think they'd regress. I didn't think Geno would be as good.
The Seahawks was weird this year. Like they actually won the games they weren't supposed to win, and then they lost some absolute stinkers. So it was a bit of a weird season for the Seahawks, and a bit frustrating for the fans when it was a surprise when they beat the Eagles when that happened, and then lose to some absolute chumps of teams. So it's weird season.
Lost the 2 to the Rams, didn't they? Which was probably the killer for them in the playoffs. But yeah, we no more Pete Carroll. Move on to Mike McDonald and a new start. Some news today: Geno's going to get his $12 million, $12.7 million. So he's been informed they're going to keep him on the roster. He's going to get his $12.7 million bonus paid out. So yeah, well done. Congrats, Geno, on you being $12 million richer.
Drinks on Geno.
Drinks on Geno, absolutely. Can you refund me my bet, Geno?
Watch out, you might be breaking his jaw.
This is probably the worst. I think this one might be the worst. This one or the Rams is probably the worst of that. Tampa Bay under 6.5 wins. Not only did Tampa Bay win 9 games, they won the division and won a playoff game.
Wasn't a bad year.
I
would just say that 6.5. It was one of them weird ones just because how terrible that division was and the schedule. So, 6.5 seemed low. But, Baker proved a lot of people wrong.
Yeah, great season. And, they won 4 of the last 5. The Buccaneers turned up winning that division. And then beat the Eagles at home in the playoffs. So, yeah, great year for Tampa. They've won that division 3 years in a row. Domination in the NFC South. So, yeah. Just 500 there, really, which is sad. And like I say, a couple that were really close, like Eagles particularly, screwed me. But yeah, not a hot start, shall we say? Also, trying to take 16 totals was probably not a good idea. I went 4-3 on teams to make the playoffs. So not make the playoffs. So I had Falcons, no. Ravens, yes. Panthers and Bears. I had to make the playoffs, and they were no. The Saints not to make the playoffs. The Seahawks not to make the playoffs. So that was where I was on the Seahawks, was spot on. And then obviously the Jets, which again we've talked about Aaron Rodgers. 3 division winners, nowhere near. The Bengals, also Joe Burrow being injured, and the Bears and the Panthers as their route in. Conference winners, Joe, I had the San Francisco 49ers to at least win the conference at 7-2, 3.5 to 1. But I was on the Bengals as Super Bowl winners.
I think the Bengals, you can't really, that was unlucky, and with everything what went on with the injury pre-season and then during the season. But maybe I'm calling this right now. Maybe the worst call could be the Panthers to win the division.
Yes,
and that might be the worst one. Like the Bears made some sense, and they did come back, but the Panthers was
horrendous.
The Panthers was just.
We haven't finished with the Panthers yet either. By the way, I've got the individual awards. I see here on the right.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. So the Panthers was on the basis that division was so bad, and they won 6. What did they win? 6-7 games when Steve Wilkes was interim. So I was like, oh, maybe they can. Bryce comes in,
upgrade a head coach.
Yeah, well, less said about the bad, but Bryce comes in, does okay. Mate, could they win 8? Could they win the division with 8 wins? Probably. It turned out you needed 9, but yeah.
Didn't get 9, did they?
No, they got 2.
Yeah.
And then the individual awards. So I had Bryce Young for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Yeah. Not good. Jahmyr Gibbs, who was in the mix at least. And then this one is a disgrace.
It's not a disgrace. It's the right decision.
It's a disgrace.
The bookies just had it wrong for the second half of the season, but Will Anderson had a better year than Jalen Carter.
Nonsense. Jalen Carter plus 700. I don't want to staunchly defend an Eagles player either, but Jalen Carter should have been the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Will Anderson had a good year. It just didn't have as good a year as Jalen Carter. It was just stacked all wrong, wasn't it? Jalen Carter blew out the gates and slowed down. Will Anderson kind of had a bit of a slow start, got better.
And won a playoff game.
Well, did he win a playoff game? I don't know.
Yes, he did, yeah. Yes, he did.
But Willie at least did hit 16-1 CMC Offensive Player of the Year. So mixed bag, I'd say, for my futures.
But you can't get everything right on the futures. I think if you did, then that would be.
Did you shout out your winner here?
Most impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Did you even shout out your winner?
What, CMC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you didn't give it much.
16-1.
16-1's a great bet.
Yeah, 16-1 CMC.
Just because he smashed it doesn't make it.
Yeah.
I didn't have CMC at 16-1. I was in my thoughts, but I didn't bet him.
Yeah, great value. CMC 16-1. Just with obviously the trade the year before, that second half of the year, he'd been incredible, full season, and he was just a beast, wasn't it? An absolute beast. Still don't understand how you guys in our fantasy league let me draft CMC at 11th. It is insane.
Just to add a quick thing here, I'm not saying it's the right or wrong decision. It is a super flex league, so it's not like he wasn't 11 in a 1 quarterback league. He was probably the second non-quarterback taken. But still a great decision, and it fired you just like it did the Niners to your first championship in a while. So congratulations to you and San Francisco.
Yeah, thanks for that. So I think I've got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 of my futures hit. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And one of them's 16-1.
14 out of 23. It's better than 50%, isn't it?
There you go.
Yeah.
It's 61%. I'll take 61% on futures. I had a great year. So fair to middling. 61% on my futures. Oh, well over 56% on 56% on the NFL season overall for spreads and totals, and 76% in the playoffs. People must be millionaires following good teams when great teams cover.
It's just a shame about your fourfolds, to be honest, isn't it?
Yeah, fourfolds are a disaster.
I was going to say, don't tease him anymore because he's already going to push Will Anderson for Defensive Player of the Year. Jesus Christ.
All right then, lads. Let's see how you did.
Oh, I'll have done terrible, I'm sure. I'm guessing. I don't know who's up next.
First.
Well, that's not too bad there. Oh, it's a parlay. Well, ignore the parlay part of that. And 4 out of 6 is smashing it. That's nice. So, yeah, I had faith in the...
Yeah, for the benefit of just the audio listeners, Byron,
I was going to go through them now, yeah. So, yeah, I had instant reaction there. So, yeah, I'd win totals. Cowboys over 9.5. Packers over 7.5. Titans under 7.5. Colts under 6.5. Dolphins over 9.5. And Bucks also under 6.5. And, yeah, 2 of my favourite bets, I think I remember highlighting, were the Dolphins over 9.5. And what did they end up with? I think it was just 10, right? Or was it 11? Mm-hmm. 11 and 6, yeah. But
11 and 6,
I couldn't see how they didn't get to double digits. And obviously they did. Dallas also over 9.5. Couldn't see how Dallas don't get to double digits, and obviously they did. The over 7.5 of Green Bay was a little touch and go at certain points, but I don't want to say always. In the preseason, I had a lot of faith in Jordan Love and the offense because it looked so good in the preseason, and it did take a little while to get going in the regular season. But yeah, I think fairly comfortably hitting the end. Did they get to 9 wins? So I need to keep flicking between the NFC and the AFC here. Yeah, they finished 9-8. The Titans I knew were going to collapse. They were just not a good team, but they did still get to 6 wins, so it wasn't as comfortable as it might have looked. The Colts I was way wrong on, especially Shane Steichen. Crucially, you already mentioned they didn't have Anthony Richardson. They didn't have Jonathan Taylor for a lot of the season as well. And Zach Moss looked like a good running back, not just some fill-in. I actually had, I think, the Bucks as one of my, not bet on, but might end up with the number 1 pick, the Colts and the Bucks. I think the Colts more than the Bucks, but like, things might just go really wrong there, and things really didn't. Great coaching job, and yeah, obviously got wrong on the Bucks. I didn't have any faith in Baker Mayfield as I think pretty much any season preview you heard on any podcast had, well, Kyle Trask will get a couple of starts, and that very much wasn't the case. So yeah, I'll hold my hands up on those being wrong. Great coaching jobs, great quarterbacking jobs. Division winners, did we go 0 for 4?
You did, yeah.
I had the Jags, which I thought was an absolute smash. That was one of my favorite bets of the offseason, truthfully. Minus 160. And the Texans came out of nowhere to a degree. They only finished one game. The
Jags blew it as well. The Jags
they only finished one game ahead of the Jags, the Texans at 10-7, Jags 9-8. But like the Jags, they just blew it. They had, I think, on paper throughout the season, they had more talent, more experience. And it just never really clicked for them at any points. They lost a lot of games I thought they should win. I think they'll probably have a better season next year, but, I obviously thought they'd have a better year this year, so what judge am I? I had the Bengals plus 140. Again, I love the Bengals this year. Joe Burrow missed out. They still got 9 wins, even with Browning playing a lot of them games, but, you still miss. I love the Packers at plus 400 again. Lions were obviously more sensible bet, but I just had a lot of faith in Green Bay pushing on this year, and I thought their defense would be good. It wasn't good. It was a mess a lot of the times. And yeah, I was on all Arthur Smith needs is a competent quarterback, and he still didn't have one at plus 220. And I think he kind of victim of, I don't know, not his own success really, but kind of his own hubris. And I bought into it just thinking, well, it can't be any worse than Marcus Mariota. And it probably wasn't as bad as Marcus Mariota overall, but it wasn't really passable. And ultimately cost him his job.
The bouncing back and forth between Ridder and Heineke was insane.
Well, it's crazy because there was a few of them games where the Falcons should have won if they had a competent quarterback. It wasn't like the team was a disaster. And being in that division as well, 2 or 3 more wins would have won that division fairly comfortably.
Yeah, and it really felt like he just completely lost the locker room, like, by the end of the season. So, I mean, that was plus 220. Obviously, they all ended up losing, but I don't think any of them were awful picks, really. Like, I don't want to shout out Paul Panther's pick from earlier. But, like, I think they were all kind of there or thereabouts. Even the Bengals, like I said, got to 9 wins. But, yeah, just none of them got over the hurdle. I had Dallas to win the Super Bowl and Dallas to win the NFC. Yeah, got schooled in the playoffs by Jordan Love, so not even close on those. Individual awards on offense. Spread thin on MVP here, but Justin Herbert plus 1,200. Obviously, I'll always be all in on the Justin Herbert Kool-Aid. Dak Prescott plus 2,200. I still think that was a good bet. I think he finished second in the voting, right?
Yeah.
And I went total YOLO on Geno Smith, just sticking to being Geno from 2022. And he didn't, but he was plus 6,600. So you are going on a long shot. Can he just throw the F out the ball? They added JSN as a obviously rookie wide receiver. I am interested to see what Gino does next year because I still think the talent's there, and a new scheme next year. So we'll see. I had Jamar Chase, Offensive Player of the Year. He wouldn't have beat CMC in a good year anyway. I don't think so. I'm not going to blame that on Joe Burrow, but it would have had to be some year. If Tyreek Hill's not beating CMC, I don't know if Jamar Chase has got that season in a realistic set of outcomes. So we'll call that a loser, regardless of who was the QB. An Offensive Rookie of the Year again, Zay Flowers, 20-1, didn't hit, but he had a really good rookie season. It was kind of just trying to find the value was so low on Bijan Robinson, and he never didn't come close really. So it was always to me trying to find a value player that isn't Bijan, and thankfully it wasn't Quentin Johnson. So at least it can hold my head up there a little bit because I had some high hopes for Quentin Johnson. I don't think he's a total bust yet, but it's a long way back I think for him.
Yeah.
So not a great first page. Let's hope the second page is better. But
yeah, sorry, but when you look at Zay Flowers though, out of the wide receivers drafted in the first round, everyone always compares against him, like, oh, the Chargers could have got Zay Flowers and stuff like that. Even like he would play better than JSN and whatnot. Like I know everyone would love like Puka, but he's a 5th round pick, and everyone missed on him. It's that kind of thing. But I thought it was a good pick out of the wide receivers. He's probably the second best to come out of the draft.
Yeah. Is that 4 out of 17 so far, Byron?
Oh, I'm not doing the counting of the crosses, but it's only 4 right and a lot of reds. I'll let you do the counting if you want to do it.
Yeah, it just doesn't look as bad because you've got some
it's a lot more than 17.
Fucking hell.
So on the second page, for those just listening, we don't have a single tick and we've got a lot of reds. So what did we get wrong here? So DPOY, these are all long shot bets in my defense here.
To be fair, there's not
I don't do the
less than 20
pick overs, pick unders. So. We just chuck our money here, there, and everywhere for the long shot. If I'm waiting all season for my bet, I'm not betting minus 110. It's kind of my approach. So DPOY, Brian Burns had a bit of a dud season. Thibodeau had a lot of sacks on no production. It was 6-1, and I don't think he ever got shorter than that. He did have a good number of sacks, but I think he's a bust, truthfully. Aiden Hutchinson, 30-1, and if he's anywhere near that next year, I'll be betting it because he had an incredible end of the season, just didn't quite have the sustained numbers all year. I had Lucas Van Ness, Defensive Rookie of the Year, and again, it was kind of just an hard play on Jalen Carter, who I think was a short odds to get it. Although he was 7-1, he wasn't short odds like Bijan Robinson was for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think Lucas Van Ness had an okay season. Again, he was never pushing for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
I forgot about this one.
Again, I thought that. So this one here is the Coach of the Year, Arthur Smith, my man, 22-1. Again, the Falcons were around plus 200 to win the division. So therefore, in my head, the coach who's had 2 bad years, because normally how the awards go is if you have a bad year, then a good year, you're so much more likely to get it. Like Kyle Shanahan's never winning Coach of the Year. Bill Belichick doesn't win Coach of the Year. Andy Reid doesn't win Coach of the Year. You need to be a bad coach who wins a lot of games. And I just thought, if he gets 10 wins, there's a good chance he gets it. Well, it fell off slightly because the Falcons were terrible and we're still in contention with 2 weeks to go. But yeah, 22-1. I don't hate the process, but obviously do hate the result. Onto individual player bets. Joe Burrow, passing yards, plus 800, got injured. No idea where he would have finished. Geno Smith, plus 3,300. I think he finished in the top 12, so not awful.
So I can actually talk you through these, Byron, if you want, because I actually looked some of this up. So, Joe Burrow was 25th, which is not horrendous, seeing he was out most of the year. And Geno was 16th.
16th he finished.
So it was Tua who came first. You had Zay Flowers' most rookie receiving yards, and it was obviously Puka. Zay Flowers came 5th. I think a few tight ends had beat him as well.
Literally would have needed to have been the best rookie wide receiver ever to win that.
That would have been some good odds on Puka as well.
Yeah.
So Seth Brown for most receptions, you were close. He was 3rd. It was CeeDee Lamb who was 1st with 135. Seth Brown had 119. Most receiving yards, you went Christian Watson, and that it was Tyreek Hill and Mike Evans with 13. Watson was 35th with 5.
He missed a lot of the season.
And so obviously Anthony Richardson got injured, so it was way off. And Parsons was 7th with 14, and it was TJ Watt who won that with 19.
Crazy that TJ Watt couldn't get Defensive Player of the Year, by the way.
I disagree.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think it's crazy.
I think there was a few more stats what came out with double teams and who gets double teamed the most, and I think Garrett was like way above percentage wise than what TJ Watt was because they got Highsmith, so you have to look both. Well, it was like Garrett or no one.
Yeah, worst records. So to have number one pick, I had a little 3 teams that I thought would all tank essentially. The Colts, who made the playoffs. No, they didn't. Sorry, they just missed out on the playoffs in the last week. The Bucks, who won a playoff game, and the Raiders, who were 1,200 to win the division or 1,200 to finish with the worst record in football. So, terrible all round. I'm going to give the Paul thing though. If Josh McDaniel stays in place, I think they're in contention for a top 5 pick. Incredible that I bet any player to break the record for longest field goal made in the regular season at 20-1. I think that's a good bet. I'll probably bet that again next year because kicks are getting longer. I'm surprised that's a 20-1
what the longest kick was.
You know what? I didn't actually look at that stat. That was the one I couldn't be bothered to look at.
Yeah, I don't remember betting it, and I don't remember tracking it. But yeah, that seems like a good bet to me. 20-1 for 67-yarder. Kicks are getting longer, more domes.
Actually, they were kicking in. I think Buckner, if he ever plays at the Raiders, well, he's going to play the Raiders Stadium next year, but he probably would have hit from 70 on some of them kicks. So
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, I'll be betting that again next season, regardless of I only need to hit once.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a dud of a year. Hopefully yours is better, Joe.
Well, you've got one more page, Byron, since you had so
fantastic.
many. So.
There's some green. There's green.
There's a few more ticks.
Wonderful. There's green. Well, they do all say parlay. So let's just take them as individuals.
Yeah. Well.
So rushing TDs hit 3 out of 4 on these. Miles Sanders over 6.5 was a dud. Yeah, he's not even the Panthers' number 1 running back. Did he only fall short by 1?
No, he only got 1 TD.
Perfect. Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I should have researched this. But yeah, Rachaad White over 4.5. He got
season,
6.
Yeah.
He had a great season. Yeah, he was dominant for the Bucks. Austin Eckler under 8.5. He got 5. Wow, I'm surprised he got as many as that. He had he looked like he were carrying a piano around the second half of the year.
Really interesting to see what happens with Austin Eckler. And
I was going to say, he's a free agent.
Yeah, he's a free agent, or whether they tag him or what they do.
They're not tagging him.
I wouldn't have thought so at that cost. It'd be over $10 million, won't it? It was $10 million last year. So,
and I don't think he quite fits Jim Harbaugh's type of workhorse running back either. And there's a lot of free agent running backs, and it's a bad running back class. Yeah, I think it's going to be a fascinating market. And Isaiah Pacheco over 5.5, and I think Joe just gave me a 7 there. I'm surprised again that was only 7. It felt like he got one every week. But yeah, certainly a nice little 3 out of 4 there, even if the parlay doesn't hit. Receptions, Olave over 75.5. Joe, have you got some quick fingers for me here? I have no idea how many you got.
87.
87.
Which I was surprised at, yeah.
He's going to be one of my favorite picks for a big third year, though, Olave. I think he's a real good wide receiver. And him and Derek Carr.
Third year breakout if you had 87 catches in year 2.
Not so much like in the same way as CeeDee Lamb broke out in his third year. He had a great first 2 years and then became a superstar. I think Olave is probably going to be my pick for that kind of breakout. I mean, because him and Carr got more on the same page towards the end of the year as well. Darren Waller, I don't need. Sorry.
I was going to say on the field with Olave, there was a few reports he was a bit of a hothead at some point, wasn't there? There was a bit.
Yeah, well, he had that one where.
Do you know who I am thing?
Yeah, that was it.
Over for speeding, yeah.
Always a good look. And yeah, he wasn't too impressed when Derek Carr threw the ball miles over his head. Which, I mean, I don't know if I'd be too impressed, truthfully. Darren Waller over 60.5. He got 52 and he barely played, so I don't think that's a terrible call, but
Daniel Jones went down. He was Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, and also Darren Waller going down should be included in the number because, when does Darren Waller play 16 games? Very rarely. George Kittle, I had under 57.5, just thinking that he might miss a game or two, and he didn't. And I think he got 65. I knew it was not too far off, so not too bad. And Nico Collins, probably my best pick of the entire lot, truthfully. Over 45.5, and he got 80. And he had a hell of a season. And passing yards, well, it looks like an 0-3 coming up. So, I had Brock Purdy under 3,600. Just like some concerns with his elbow, some concerns with him being Mr. Irrelevant and being in his second year as a Mortabe. Does Shanahan move to Sam Darnold? He got 4,200 though, well, nearly 4,300. So yeah, quite a way off there. Deshaun Watson obviously got injured, but he was over 3,650. And yeah, he was terrible. 1,100 yards he finished with in 6 games off the top of my head. So yeah, I don't think he was getting close. He wasn't playing like he was about to jump out. And yeah, Fields had over 28.50 and he ended up with 25.62. He missed a couple of games with Tyson Bagent taking over.
Yeah.
And name I'd almost forgotten. So yeah, I think again, Fields would have got there if he played every game, but that's the risk you take when you bet overs that, if players miss games, you're probably going to miss. So yeah, 0 for 3 on the passing yards there. But the Fields one I don't hate as a bet. The other two were just kind of dumb.
I'd be interested to see, because that's kind of 2 years in a row, and also more than any other year I can remember, where the quarterback position has just been decimated by injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely decimated. I think we got close to 60. It must have been over 60. 60 different quarterbacks started a game.
Yeah.
There might be potential, unless there's an adjustment to the markets. You could just go crazy hammering under props on quarterbacks. Taking your chance is going to be, again, another huge wave of injuries.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, like, there doesn't need to be injuries to hit unders as well. Like, that's why betting unders is such a good market on these season longs, because, you get poor play, benching, injury, all baked into the under. None of them help the over. As we look at my sheet of overs here.
Great effort, Byron.
Yeah, we had fun.
And that's what counts. When the fun stops, stop. Please gamble responsibly. Speaking of which, Joe.
Yeah, so I'll go through mine. I had the Cowboys as well. I had over 10.5 wins. I thought they would have a big year. And just with how the division looked to the other 2 teams, I felt like they were going to, get above that. What it was set at, and obviously did. I had the Steelers over 9.5 wins, which just sneaked in. I wasn't too confident of that at certain points, but I think I was confident in a different reason, where they were a preseason darling, where everyone was saying the offense looked amazing, and then they were absolutely trash. And how we talked about plenty of times, how Mike Tomlin likes to win, a low scoring game, win by 3, and it's all in defense. So curious how they would be next year with Arthur Smith, but always bet on the over with the Steelers, especially with how Tomlin is.
I wonder if that comes down. Like, I wonder if their line will be under 500 next year. Like, I wonder if it'll be kind of like 8.5.
I'm guessing I'm curious what the QB would be. I think if they went into this year with the same QBs, or even if they get Tannehill, I think it'll go down. I think it's just how good the preseason was last year. It felt like for the Steelers that it was, this is Pickett's year. They're gonna, score some points finally. That's why the over/under was so high. So I think it will come down unless they get, someone in the draft, or if they manage to make a big trade and there's a big hype train in the summer. So yeah, curious of that. Got the Bears under 7.5. I was never confident in the Bears. This was one of my big takes to start the year. I just felt they had issues across the board, and I know everyone was big on Justin Fields coming into this year, but I'm not a huge fan of the coach, and that defense, I wasn't a huge fan. Obviously, they changed it around. I think that's why they got they got a lot closer to 7.5 than I expected, just because I think it was more the defense stepped up, especially when they made the trade for a sweep from the Commanders. So yeah, he's got a big job ahead of him because he is a defensive coach and a lot better. Can he continue it? That's obviously the big question for the Bears. I thought I was a bit unlucky with the Saints over 9.5. Obviously, they hit 9. I expected them. I think they had the easiest schedule, I think, ever. It was something crazy that, like, since they've been recording it, they had one of the easiest schedules. So I expected them to at least get 10 wins, especially in that division. So for them to come up short, disappointed in how Carr performed. I thought it would be a lot better for them this year, and that's probably why I've hated the Saints most of the year and been slagging them off. Because they've been letting me down.
We've not been very pro Saints, have we?
No. Well, if they play better and actually, against rubbish teams and actually perform, then we'll be more high on them. The Cardinals are 3.5 wins. Obviously, didn't help with the beat. The Cowboys
Beat the Cowboys and the Eagles.
Yeah, and the Steelers who were in the playoffs. They beat three, playoff teams. How many did they get? 5, 6 wins?
4. So they beat the Cowboys,
they got 4.
Eagles, Steelers. I can't remember who their other win was against. I want to say the 4th win's also against a playoff team as well.
I can't remember, but I was thinking that they might only get 1 win because I think it helped with Josh Dobbs obviously performing better than anyone expected. I wasn't expecting him to play, obviously, because they drafted him right at the end and actually perform better than what most people were predicting. So, not too bad. And then finally, the Chiefs, obviously, I had them over 12.5 wins because it feels like they hit that every year. They don't do that, but they still win the Super Bowl. That's just how, how life goes. And that moves on to the division winners. Obviously, the Chiefs, just because, until they get knocked off, I'm always going to go the Chiefs. I know the Chargers have huge hype every year, and people are expecting Denver to be a lot better, but yeah, I'm always going the Chiefs. I had the Cowboys. I think I predicted the Eagles to actually win the division, but I just like the price of plus 180 for the Cowboys to win, because I expect them to win, to get 11 or 12, and I thought it would be a shootout between the Eagles. And then I also had the Lions to win as well, which I thought was pretty nice at plus 130, just because I just saw them as above and beyond everyone else in that division. I wasn't as high as the Packers as Byron was, so happy with that. But I did predict the Saints to win, which, the same record as the Bucs, so I can't really.
Yeah, you're not far away. Yeah, half a game away. No. Yeah,
so it'd be nice. And then yes, I had the Chiefs as the conference winners at plus 350, which again, until someone beats them and knocks them off and proves that they aren't the team to win, I'm always going to go for that. But I had the 49ers to win the Super Bowl, which would be nice. Well. It would have been nice as well. Especially with the price of looking for next year. That 9-1 was actually a price.
As we stand now, the Niners are 5-1. The Chiefs are the same price to win the AFC, plus 350 or 3.5 to 172. So you could just get that again.
Yeah, and I think they're only going to get better next year. That's the most depressing thing. So yeah, another fun football when we talked about Patrick Mahomes winning it next year. And then I didn't do too well in the make the playoffs. Wasn't as good. Obviously, I had the Steelers to get in, which was tight. I didn't expect everyone else to play so well in the division. I had Baltimore not to get in the playoffs, which was probably my worst pick. I just thought they were going to drop off, especially with everything what happened with Lamar and whatnot. But obviously, them being the number 1 seed, that was way off. I had the Dolphins not making it. I think that was more. I was more high on the Jets than actually low on the Dolphins, and I had to pick a team out the 4. I was thinking the 2 teams might get in, and Dolphins weren't going to make it. Similar to Byron, I had the Falcons. I was high on their draft and how everyone was looking, so obviously that was disappointing. I had the Seahawks to get in there. Again, they were close. They were there or thereabouts, but I wasn't expecting the drop off from Geno, which let me down. And finally, following on, I had the Bears not making the playoffs. So I was fairly confident with that. So that hit. So let's go individuals. And I managed to pick some decent ones. I was pretty impressed when I went through this.
You hit CMC as well. Nice.
So yes, MVP I went Hurts and Rodgers. Obviously, Rodgers going down after the 4th play didn't help. And Hurts, when they were 10-1, I know he wasn't playing the best, but I could have seen if they carried on and got 16-1, then he would have been in there. But yeah, he dropped off edge of the cliff, and I think he's got something to prove. And it wasn't a great year. I had CMC Smith Post. That was a nice little 16-1 bet. I had Jordan Addison for the offensive rookie of the year. 16-1. I was tempted to Byron. I didn't want to go obvious with Bijan, and I wasn't expecting huge things from the quarterbacks. I think that obviously let me down. And I just thought with Kirk Cousins and with people putting a lot of stock into Jefferson, that Jordan Addison, which I don't think he had a decent year. I think it was, I think Zay Flower played by the end of the year was just a little bit higher, but I think stuff in Jordan Addison had a great year.
Yeah, Jordan Addison was also catching passes from Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, and Jaron Hall, and still had a really good rookie year.
So, and then the other stats I had Kirk Cousins' most passing yards. It was actually second in yards per game. So if he didn't get injured, that could have been close. I just followed the wide receivers. So, injuries costed there.
Jefferson back as well.
And then Olave, same as Byron, which you mentioned. Which like I mentioned, he was 17th with 87 receptions, so he wasn't too far. But I did hit on Sam Howell most interceptions, and he felt that was far and away. So he had 21 at 14-1. I think the second highest was Josh Allen, and he had 18. So he had it by 3.
Great.
Should have gone for the double. Most interceptions, more sacks would have been nice for a quarterback. So nice little 14-1.
Yeah, 14-1 and a 16-1. That's outstanding.
Yeah, not too bad. Like when I was going through, I was like, I forgot about all these. And then finally, my defense coaching awards. I had TJ Watt as defense player of the year, 8-1. Obviously, Paul's not happy that I didn't get that. So
yeah, I think it
was super close. Yeah. And I had Agent Hutchinson similar to Byron. I just like the price at 30-1. I think if it's anywhere near that, I'll probably throw some money on as well. I had Will McDonald as defensive rookie of the year. This was more because I expected the Jets to have a big year, and I feel like it can be swayed if a team has a really good year. Then it can be a story that a defender did well, but it just didn't feel like he did. It wasn't great, and obviously that's why I picked Roberts.
Joe, that was because you saw the videos of him leaping over cars on draft night.
Definitely.
That was why. Yeah. That's why you picked Will McDonald. It's okay. I would have done the same.
Yep. And obviously that's where Robert Saleh, which was probably one of my worst picks as well. He played a stinker of the year, maybe one of the worst coaches. And I had Mike Tomlin as well, which, if everyone, if I feel like, I think it's like what Byron said. I was trying to figure the story where if he could have got 11, 12 wins, it could have been, let's finally give Mike Tomlin a coach of the year for what he's done. But there was plenty of other coaches who deserved it more. And finally, I went for the most sacks, Aiden Hutchinson, and he came 12th with 11.5. So, not miles off. So, that was my bets. So I was pretty happy with some of the big hits and, getting some of the other ones.
Yeah, good work, Joe. Well done.
So I also did where we came with actually the picks and if we got them right. So for the division winners of the AFC, Paul got the Bills and the Chiefs right. And his wild card, he went Ravens and Dolphins, but they didn't. But they didn't hit at the actual where the start. But he hit perfect on the Bills and Chiefs. Byron hit perfect on the Chiefs and the Dolphins, exactly where they finished on the wild card spot. And he also hit the Browns to get in. And I hit on the Bills, Chiefs, and I also got the Steelers perfect as well. But we had some stinkers as well with the Chargers and Jets.
I think the Jets, I think you can just put that one to the side. So I had the Steelers at 10-7, but missing the playoffs because that AFC North in particular was going to be so strong, and they just fell on the right side of it. Yeah.
So the NFC, Byron did really well in the NFC. So I go for Paul first. You went for the Eagles, obviously.
Sorry. Joe, I've accidentally muted you. You got to take yourself off mute.
There you go. Cheers, Paul.
Make sure to repeat your bit about the Panthers, Joe. I don't want that getting cut.
Yeah, no worries. So Paul hit on the Eagles. We had them to win the division, same as me. But obviously they're going to the playoffs wildcard, and Byron hit the Cowboys perfect. The NFC North, Paul went for the Bears, which didn't go well. Byron had the Packers, which made the playoffs but didn't win, and I had the Lions, so I hit on that. And we all missed out on the NFC South. We all had different teams, and the one team we didn't pick actually won the division and got in. And Paul did get the Panthers, so that's the worst out of the three.
I mean, that just didn't hit, just like the Falcons and just like the Saints. Don't make it out to be any
That
worse.
was dead by October, though.
Yeah. We all hit on the 49ers win the West. That went well. Me and Paul had the Cowboys to get the first wildcard team, while Byron had the Eagles, so Byron hit there. Paul had the Lions. Byron had the Lions to get into the playoffs as well, which through the wildcard, but obviously they both won the division, so well. And then the rest, me and Byron had Seahawks. I had the Falcons, and Paul had the Vikings. So we didn't hit on any of them, but not too bad for picking the division and wild card. We all at least hit 4 out of the 7.
A lot of mine was I was gonna throw in some worst to first because there's always like worst to first contenders. And some of the it was the Texans, wasn't it? That was worst to first. But just didn't pick the right one. Yeah.
None of us got the Rams. I was trying to figure out for a minute there looking at that sheet. I'm like, well, none of us got one of the wildcard teams, the Rams, yeah.
And then Super Bowl, Joe, you picked the Super Bowl matchup spot on. Chiefs, Niners, just didn't pick the winner. You of course, picked your Niners to win. Sadly, they didn't. Byron had a Bengals Cowboys matchup. I had a Bengals Niners matchup, so I got half of it. None of us had the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. Not bad. I think all in all, we've given out a lot of winners over the course of the year. I've already shouted out my record, 56%, 76% in the playoffs. 9 fourfolds that we hit at 12-1 and above. And along with Byron hit some big bets during the year with his Sunday leaders markets in pass yards, receiving yards, rush yards. Joe, you hit some smaller parlays as well over the course of the year. So yeah, all in all, a good win. I think probably what we do need to do is actually just know, Joe, this is definitely your job. Giant file, everything on it. We need that. Every single.
You just want a percentage, don't you? That's what you need.
Well, I've got my own Excel file. I've got my own file for all my bets. But yeah, I think we just need it. Look, we've got to be transparent.
And me and Byron are more exciting though. We go for like player props and all this kind of stuff, not just
we more need the unit over under than the percentage.
I'm the units guy. I'm the spread over under. That's the bread and butter, right? That's what pays the bills. Put for dough, drive for show. Yeah, like that's what it's all about.
Not a golfer.
And you guys can do the flashy stuff, but yeah, I think we need it on there. Right, we are going to finish off this episode and our final episode of the season with some awards, and again, alternative awards. It was the NFL honors exactly a week ago, and then we did our own sort of mid-season alternative awards, and we're going to do an end of season, slightly less alternative awards because they don't quite have as fun names as the ones did mid-season. But we're going to take a look. We've got some things for 2023, and we've also got kind of some look ahead awards and more shout outs as well. So we'll start with the 2023 NFL Game of the Year. Game of the season. Joe, I'll let you do the honors. We should hopefully have a different one each, and then we'll put it out in a Twitter poll that I will eventually get around to doing. But Joe, what's your nomination for Game of the Year?
So this is more personal pick. I had 2 to choose from, and it's the ones that gave me the most pleasure, and for me, the Game of the Year. So I'm going to go for one which I know you guys are not going to go for. I'm going to go for the Cowboys at the 49ers. That was my Game of the Year because it was incredible.
Honestly, when you first started off there, I thought you wanted to say Cowboys Packers, but yeah, it's the Niners win. I have no complaints here. Go for it.
So what was that? Week 5 Niners. What was it? 42 Cowboys 10. Was that it? It doesn't even know the score of the game.
Because it was just so, I don't need to know it. It was just a satisfaction of, it was 42-10. There you go, Paul.
I remembered it.
Yeah.
So week 5, Cowboys, Niners, Cowboys, Niners. Yeah. That's a terrible pick for Game of the Year. Byron, I'm hopefully you'll do a better job.
So I went for, I think week 14. I don't have the week wrote down, but Ravens 37, Rams 31. Just an incredible display of quarterback play between, Lamar Jackson. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback I've ever seen, but Lamar Jackson might be the most fun quarterback I've ever seen play. The amount of times where I'm watching Lamar Jackson and I just start laughing because it's I don't know how he's done what he's just done. And it happens multiple times a year where it's just this guy is fucking ridiculous. The playoffs might not have gone blah, blah, whatever. But it was just such a fun game. Back and forth scoring, maybe the last great game of Odell Beckham's career. Again, one of my favorite wide receivers to watch in his pomp. Ends on a punt return, 76 yards in overtime. The win percentage on ESPN or whatever is up and down, especially in the last quarter, the third and fourth quarter, especially. It was just great. DeMarcus Robinson revenge game, unheralded. And Matthew Stafford slinging it around, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua both shining. it was kind of just a game that had everything, 2 eventual playoff teams, and kind of like, different to Joe's, like enjoying it because his team won. Just like, when I first started watching the NFL, I didn't really have a team for the first few years. Like I fell in love with Tony Romo and that story, and that's how I became a Cowboys fan. And it kind of reminded me of the first few years of watching the NFL, of just like, fuck, this is just fun. Like this game kind of had everything that I wanted in a game. I didn't care who won, and it was just a really, really fun game.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my nomination if it wasn't picked. So of all the games, so I'll go to my second one, and this probably wasn't necessarily a big game. It's probably the funnest game of the season. We've mentioned the Buccaneers a little bit already, and kind of Baker's comeback story. He was balling out, and if CJ Stroud didn't already have his coming out party, this was it. It was week 9. Tampa Bay Buccaneers 37, Houston Texans 39. The Bucs score with less than a minute to go to go 37-33, and what had already been an exciting shootout. CJ Stroud leads the Texans on a 80-yard drive with less than a minute to go to score a touchdown to win the game. That proved to be pivotal in them ending up winning the division. So, a great game. Stroud balled out. Baker Mayfield balled out. Tank Dell scored the game-winning touchdown with about 10 seconds to go. It was ace, and it included a kneel down on a 2-point conversion because the Texans didn't want to risk kicking the extra point, and the Buccaneers returning it and tying the game. So, great game. It's one of the funniest games. Any sort of honourable mentions? Joe, have you got a serious one as well? Or?
Did I have a second one wrote down?
Yeah, my second. Go ahead. I'll go on, Byron, let you go. So,
I had Dallas versus Lions on not New Year's Eve, but basically New Year's Eve. I think it was a Saturday.
Week 17.
Just a real competitive game, back and forth. Had the controversy and which took a little away from it, but also added something to it. But just like a real, again, like head-to-head, great football matchup. Yeah, was my second choice.
Oh.
Yeah, I just, the one what Byron said was going to be my serious pick, but, the 49ers are Cowboys or the 49ers are Eagles. They were just both fun games, and, to me, it was the game of the year.
Fair enough. Okay, so some honorable mentions are ones that I had listed. So the NFC Championship game, Lions-Niners, was brilliant. Great comeback. Niners coming from 17 points down. Great, just exciting plays everywhere. The Lions gashed them. The Niners had to come back. It was just a great game. Also, the AFC divisional round, Chiefs-Bills was really, really good. That kind of bubbled, simmered, and then just exploded into an amazing game. Thursday Night Football, Seahawks-Cowboys from Week 13. 41-35 to the Cowboys. That was a brilliant game. Bills-Eagles, they went into overtime. Bills had a shot to win it in overtime. Didn't. The Eagles went and scored. Browns coming back at Baltimore in Week 10. That was a great game. Lions-Chargers in just an offensive shootout. Also in Week 10, 41-38 Lions. Browns-Colts, there's a lot of Cleveland Browns there. 39-38 Browns-Colts. That was just another fun one in Week 7. Commanders-Eagles overtime from Week 4. And Dolphins-Chargers from Week 1, 36-34. That was a fun game as well.
I wasn't expecting such a long shot. I did actually have 2 more to add then. Well, no, one you just mentioned, sorry, which was Dolphins-Chargers, which was just a pure banger of a game. But also Week 1, the opening game of the season. Lions-Chiefs is a real good one. The birth of the new Lions, and they're here to fucking fuck you up. I know it was no Chris Jones, no Travis Kelce, so it did have that little slight asterisk to it. But a great way to start the season.
Yeah, cool. All right. We've got then the second award. I'm going to need to change the screen while I do this one. I'll not forget. The play of the year. Can I go first? Is that all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to go with Deron. So again, this is a personal one, but also it set a record. And
great commentary as well.
Probably, Jim Nantz makes the moment. Deron Bland's 5th pick 6 of the season. Thanksgiving night, Week 12 against the Washington Commanders. I mean, the game itself was already dead and buried. The Cowboys killed the Commanders on the night. But it was to set the record. And it was in Week 12 when he did it. There was still 6 games left to go of the season. A 63-yard interception return for a touchdown. History-making Deron Bland. His 5th one. I watched them all back. They're all good. They're all insane. The one against the Panthers is probably the best one. But this one, just because it was the record, insane. Yeah, 63-yard interception return for a touchdown. Picked off Sam Howell. Burnt it. Could have got tackled a couple of times before getting into the end zone, but manages to stay on his feet. And yeah, history maker. That's going to go for a long time before that record gets beat, I think, as well. Deron Bland had a great year. Could possibly consider himself unlucky not to win Defensive Player of the Year, given that. The man scored 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He scored more touchdowns than Miles Sanders.
A lot of defensive players did. Well, maybe not a lot, but a few, certainly.
So yeah, Deron Bland. For me, Byron?
So from my shortlisted games of the year, I went with CeeDee Lamb's 92-yard touchdown against the Lions. 3rd and 13, down 3. Dak in his own end zone. Escapes pressure, swings out to the right. 50 air yards. CeeDee Lamb leaves his guy so much in the dust, he's on the ground. And just CeeDee Lamb had an incredible second half of the season, from about week 6, week 7 through basically to the playoffs, where things didn't go so well in the Green Bay game. But yeah, this was a 200-yard game, and that was kind of just like a real, like, this is who CeeDee Lamb is, and this is the top dog. And yeah, just really stood out as one of the players of the year for me.
Joe?
Yeah, I was going to say the punt return for the Ravens, but Byron's talked about. I think the other one I'm going to shout is the Chiefs fumble when Tyreek Hill fumbled it when they played in Germany, where McDuffie strip sacked it. I can't remember who scooped it up, but then he did like a lateral behind and they scored the INT. I thought that was it was a pivotal part of the game, where it seemed like the Dolphins might come back, but it was just a great defensive play all around, and yeah, McDuffie just doing McDuffie stuff.
Love that we've got 2 defensive players on players of the year. The other one, Joe, I'm very surprised that you didn't shout this one, is Brandon Ayuk in the NFC Championship game. The bounce off the helmet that sparked the comeback.
But there was another one. There was the was it Olave? That was similar way, it bounced off someone's helmet as well against the Falcons. The last game
the Falcons in week 18. Yeah. And there's another one I had, just if we're honourable mentions, which is good. I thought Byron might have taken the Bland one, but I was like, I'm going to get it in first. Week 18 for the Buffalo Bills, the first touchdown they scored in their de facto playoff game against the Miami Dolphins. It was Sherfield. 6-yard pass. It's the one where it gets tipped at the line of scrimmage and just loops up in the air, and he somehow manages to position his body to keep his feet inbound and fall and catch the ball. Must be like 3 yards out the back of the end zone by the time he catches it. Stretches to catch it and somehow keeps 2 feet in the end zone. It's an incredible play. And the one Mike McDaniel on the touchline was just like jaw open, like how the hell's he caught that? Just a great play from a bit of a weird situation. Any other honourable mentions?
I had one, and again, just going back to my boy Lamar Jackson, MVP, against the Jags. And, it was just a 26-yard completion, but yeah, they were on the Jags 30, and Dwayne Smoot just closed in on Lamar Jackson, just spins out of it, goes to the right-hand side again. Smoot gets to him again, and just as he gets to him, he throws in double coverage. Isaiah Likely comes down with it, and Jackson on the ground, Smoot's on the ground, obviously now on the 4-yard line. And it's more like, it's an incredible play anyway, kind of routine for Lamar in some cases, but like, it never gets old looking at it. And, Smoot, the D-lineman, just like, you literally look at him, watching Lamar Jackson, you're just like, how? Because like, what the fuck else do I need to do here, bro? Like, and yeah, you just can't stop it. And just, yeah, one of my favorite players of the year.
My other one is just the Jets punt return as well in the first week, obviously with Rodgers going down and everything what happened in the game, and the Bills one of the favourites. Well, they were the favourites to win the division, and the AFC and the Jets were, coming off that big injury. It felt like, they could still win, and it was a huge punt return. So
I did have one last one. Sorry, Tim Boyle's Hail Mary.
Yeah,
just an incredible way to. I don't know. It might be the play that defined the Jets season.
Yeah,
half time against the Dolphins, just throw it up, and it was 108-yard or 100-yard touchdown.
99 yards on it.
Yeah, but it's technically, and like, just really encapsulated it. Incredible defensive play, incredible eyes up play, but
yeah, there's
just one of the players that'll stay with me for a long time.
Black Friday prime game, wasn't it? Yeah.
Black Friday indeed.
Yep. Cool. All right. Let's go to most improved. 2023 most improved. Joe, do you want to kick us off? Your nomination?
Oh, yes, I feel. But I'm going to go Nico Collins. I know we've talked about him before, but he's gone from a wide receiver what not many people talked about or knew, and now he's a true number one for the Texans, and it's going to be a fun year. But I'm going forward that he's managed to improve so much where he's in the conversation now of like top 20 wide receiver, which I don't think anyone would have guessed at the start of the year.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, so big coming out party for Nico Collins. Cool, Byron.
Nico Collins was going to be my first pick, so I'm going to go with my second pick. Baker Mayfield. He had a mixed career in Cleveland. Obviously, that one great year with the playoff win over Pittsburgh. But he was kind of a laughingstock by the end of last year, and now he's set himself up to earn a great contract. Won a playoff game, won a division. Looks like a leader. How many shows did we talk about how much we were respecting and admiration for Baker Mayfield? So I think I'm interested in who you pick, Paul. I think those are two pretty easy choices, truthfully.
Yeah, well, it was going to be Baker Mayfield. I should have gone second. Do you want to carry on talking about Baker Mayfield maybe for a little bit while I scramble around for the. No, it's fine. I've got one. I'm going to say just because, and it might be harsh because actually, this guy was already really good. But I think he's just taken another step, and that's Max Crosby for the Raiders. I think he's just taken another step, and not necessarily the stats. I think he only had a couple more sacks than he did in 2023, but he's just become a game wrecker.
Yeah, defense is on his back.
Yeah, he has just become a game wrecker. I don't think I've been as impressed with any particular performance of an individual defensively than Crosby against the Chiefs on Christmas Day. Yeah. He didn't record a sack or anything. In fact, he looked from the stats, he had a pretty quiet game. He was everywhere. He was in the backfield constantly. He was harassed Mahomes. He was just a beast. And we've seen how good actually that Chiefs line's ended up being. He's been a beast. And a shout now for Max Crosby to be Defensive Player of the Year. I like that. It's certainly one I'll be looking at in the summer because I think you potentially get pretty decent odds on Max Crosby to be Defensive Player of the Year. But yeah, he's in that upper echelon with Garrett, with TJ Watt, with Micah Parsons as the best defensive players in the league. He's been incredible. So yeah, Max Crosby for me.
He even gets to pick his own head coach.
He does, yeah. And I think just with someone like Antonio Pierce as well, he's just going to go on. Like he's just going to let him loose.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, he was already good, already great, but I think he's just gone to that top tier of players in the league now.
I did have one other honorable mention, and it's kind of the same as Max Crosby. Touched on it earlier in the bit with the Alavi talk. CeeDee Lamb, who went from being a really good wide receiver to being like one of the top 3-4 receivers in the league. I would put him number 2, truthfully, behind Justin Jefferson only. But I understand Tyreek Hill, you can make an argument for. Jamar Chase, you can make an argument for. I don't think you can make an argument for anyone else to be ranked ahead of CeeDee Lamb, though.
Yeah, I had CeeDee on there as well. He was going to be one of the picks for similar reasons. I also had Deron Bland, obviously having a huge year, and Trent McDuffie just suddenly turned into top 3 cornerback, and it's I don't know if it's one of them weird ones where I don't know if he'll ever get the recognition just because he's on the Chiefs.
Yeah,
I think everyone will say like he's a great cornerback, but will people put him up there with like Sauce Gardner and Jalen Ramsey and stuff just because the team is on? Because he deserves it, and how he played in the Super Bowl was incredible. And I also another one was David Njoku, just how he performed.
Yeah.
Maybe most improved throughout the season, especially when Joe Flacco came in. He suddenly was, him and Amari could flip who was actually his number one weapon, and I think he just stepped up because he was always one of them tight ends where we've got a few in the league where he's got the ability to be a top tight end, but he just never produced it, and I feel like especially the second half of the season, he actually stepped up.
Also, by the way, I think David Njoku should have been serious consideration for comeback player of the year. The man burned his own face off in the first third of the season.
Yeah.
And he came back.
But he didn't play for the Jets last year.
Right, what's the next award? I've lost track.
Chump of
the year. 2023.
There's a lot to choose from.
Joe, actually, if you've got a lot to choose from, you can hang on because I was all prepared for this one. Byron, do you want to go first?
Sure. I had a rant that I tried to I did put on our TikTok about this guy, fired midway through the year, not close, I don't think anything for me. Josh McDaniels, never going to have an NFL head coaching gig again. Can't get an NFL OC job unless Bill Belichick gets another head coaching job, it feels like. Good riddance to toxic trash, Josh McDaniels.
Click that again. Put that out there. Chump of the year for me is going to be Nick Sirianni, Philadelphia Eagles head coach, to get to that point that they got to.
You're taking that over-under loss hard, aren't you?
Yeah. Take things personally. To get to that point, the whole...
So what's your serious pick, Paul? What's your serious pick?
To go from that moment when they beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead, shouting after the game under the stand.
See ya.
Yeah, see ya. To kind of how it finished for them. I think that's big. That's big Chump of the year. Deserves Chump of the year for that. Nick Sirianni for me. Also, I just really don't like him. Joe, who's your Chump of the year?
So I'm gonna go. It's close, but I'm gonna go with with no player or coach. I'm gonna go with an owner. It's gonna be David Tepper, the Panthers.
Great shot.
Because he is the Chump of the year, where he's, he may have set that, organization back a few years. It feels like he was the one who chose Bryce Young and didn't go with the rest of the team. Who knows how true that is? Obviously got a new head coach, one of Paul's favorite head coaches, and obviously got rid of him fairly quickly. And it feels like a lot of the decisions and the mistakes and what's happened, sits at his feet. When he first came in, everyone was bigging him up and say he was going to be great for the Panthers. That he always wins when he's with all his companies. But the NFL is not run like any other companies, and especially how much they gave up for Bryce Young. That you picked first, and then you're still the worst team, and you haven't got that pick, and you haven't got quite a few picks going forward. So I think David Tepper is a chump. And while I'm talking, I might as well just talk about
the delivery of that was great. David Tepper is a chump. That was great.
Yeah. So the close second, it's very similar. It's anyone connected with the Jets. I just think they've just been chumps in terms of you've just given your organization to a 40-year-old quarterback who he's brought in everyone who he wants, and I don't think any of them's hit, and you're keeping the OC, which some of the reports which have come out about the Jets season, how it's been an absolute circus, is it's all they deserve. Because I thought bringing Rodgers in was a good decision, but just letting him basically run the organization with, it was fairly obvious with the wide receivers they got in, or the old guys who have, not performed and been healthy scratchers, the OC being clueless, Salah Salah's looked like a chump as well, that he's not got control and everything what's gone on it. And now let's run it back with a 41-year-old quarterback who's coming off a Achilles tear after he was going to come back after 10 weeks. And obviously he didn't.
I don't think you specifically mentioned here as well, but I think it was NFL Honors event, or it was a Super Bowl weekend. Woody Johnson was asked, would he do anything differently, the Jets owner? And he was like, we would have had a backup quarterback. And it's like, you had plenty of chances.
Yeah.
Even when Zach Wilson started failing, you lost your quarterback in week one. Flacco was available. Josh Dobbs was available. I'm not saying these guys would have saved your season, but it's just so pathetic for an owner to be saying things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody involved. I think two great shouts, Joe.
Yeah, and obviously Rodgers, just what Rodgers is,
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah. Any
I also
honourable mentions?
One more, Mac Jones, just because how disastrous that his year's been, and some of the reports again was just come out. I don't know if you've seen where apparently it was a toxic quarterback where Zappi was watching film in the wide receiver room. Obviously, that's not great, and you can't really have that attitude if you're stinking it up every week. And he's definitely gone from the Patriots. I'll be curious who picks him up. I wouldn't be shocked if he's the 49ers backup. That's one of my predictions. That because I think Darnold will leave just because how his image has changed by just being a backup at the 49ers somehow. I think Mac Jones might be similar.
Honourable mention. Any other honourable mentions, Byron?
Brandon Staley was my only other honourable mention. Yeah, just it's not so much how you got. It's not so much going down, but like how he went. It just got so petty and so toxic, and it showed in his final act. Again, I should have the score up here because it's the second time I've referenced this game, but the 63-10, I believe it was, or 63-14, Raiders absolute butt whipping of them, where the players just gave up. It's simple as they did not want to play for him.
Yeah. It was his press conferences as well, just how whiny he was at
so
the end.
Defensive.
Yeah.
And on the same kind of note, Arthur Smith again. I think both those. I think Brandon Staley would have been out regardless, but I think Arthur Smith, if he'd handled it better, might have got another year. But because he went so defensive and so like toxic again so early, it's like players don't respond to it.
Yeah.
Like you don't have the cachet, you don't have like the skins on the wall to be that much of a prick. Same as Mac Jones. Like if you're Aaron Rodgers and you want to come in and be Billy Big Bollocks, okay, you're Aaron Rodgers, you're one of the most talented quarterbacks that ever lived. If you're Mac Jones, maybe humble yourself a little bit and try and learn. Brandon Staley, Arthur Smith just I mean, at least Arthur Smith's got a chance to bounce back. His Steelers OC, which I don't think is a terrible hire, truthfully. Might do him well to be out the limelight and get back to coaching. Brandon Staley, I don't think ended up landing anywhere, right, as a DC?
No, I think he went for 4 jobs, although the Niners are now looking for one.
Could be.
I guess Steve Wilkes has obviously been dismissed, which is harsh. Now there are no other jobs you can go get from a coordinator perspective. It feels like that's a scapegoat. Bad vibes coming out of the Niners the last few days, which is natural after a Super Bowl loss, but should really get Kyle Shanahan away from a microphone, I think. He's probably...
I'm just gonna throw that. I wasn't surprised with the Wilkes.
Me neither.
Byron.
I'm surprised how surprised people were.
Yeah, I think it's just most people. I think most people who's commented is the ones who have only just watched the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and he actually had a good, in a sense, a good game against the Chiefs. But you're playing the Chiefs offense, which hasn't really performed this year, and there were some mistakes there. But especially the second half of the season, I think I said one of the stats, they were like the 18th best defense, like the second half of the season. So, and it just didn't mesh. So I don't see it as a big issue.
I think as well, like. I don't have any sources in the San Fran building. I don't think Shanahan and Steve Wilkes especially got on.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you Kyle Shanahan, it's all well and good having a coach who pushes you that you don't get on with necessarily, but like, it probably helps to have a good relationship with your DC, and it doesn't feel like he ever had one. So, is it that surprising?
He was calling timeouts in the Super Bowl because he didn't like some of the players who so as soon as your offensive head coach is doing that, it's. And I understand like the timing's not great, but what you can do, fire him before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So.
That'd be a call.
I've just got one more honourable mention that will actually take us into our next award because we're going to start looking ahead. Chump of the year, I'm also going to go to Deshaun Watson. Joe Flacco came in and showed him up. Absolutely. Guy came in, he's been sat on his ass on the couch and got more production from that Browns offense. And it's not as if Flacco came in and they just ran the ball. They aired the ball out.
Yeah.
He's responsible for the Chiefs, for the Browns single game receiving record that Amari Cooper has, the 250 odd yards or 260 odd yards, breaking Josh Gordon's record. Deshaun Watson, boom, creep. Also $230 million richer. And that takes us into our looking ahead award, our next one, team to fall off a cliff. And I'll go first, the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, to do what they did this year was incredible. Kevin Stefanski, I think rightly, coach of the year, manages to get to 11 wins in the wild card, all those injuries, 5 quarterbacks, all that jazz. But they're going to have to go back to Deshaun Watson. That's kind of where they are. And they're going to be terrible again. And there's also no way you get through that again as well, that kind of level of injury and things like that. So, Cleveland Browns, 11 wins. I think they might win 5-6 games. I'd say I'd say dropping 5 wins from the year before is falling off a cliff.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I agree with the call, sorry, but if they finish with 5 or 6 wins, I think that's definitely fallen off a cliff.
Yeah. Joe?
Yeah, I'm glad I went next. I'm going to go the Bucks. I think it was a great story this year with what's happened. And obviously Baker playing well. It's can he do it again, basically? And if the Saints or the Falcons or even the Panthers are better, I don't know if he's going to be able to do the level of performance where he can elevate the Bucks any further. And it feels like they're quite an aging team. Curious what they'll do with Mike Evans and a few of the players who were there for the Super Bowl. So I think it's a big off season. And yeah, I'm not a huge Todd Bowles fan as a head coach. I don't know if he elevates them to adds extra wins, what certain coaches do. So I think I've got a feeling they might drop off to, again, like 5 or 6 wins, which will not be a massive drop off. But it's going, to then, not being in there, because I think some of the other teams will get better. So I'm going to go the Bucks.
Cool. Byron?
I went with the Buffalo Bills. A bit vibes based, I guess, but they are, let me have my number up here. I did have it $54 million over the cap as it stands. Obviously, the cap will go up, but that's still a big number to get down from. When, obviously, they were very up and down this year. Josh Allen's still a special player. But it felt like a lot was kind of falling down around him. The team's getting older. Obviously, they've had injuries, but every team gets injuries. I think he's certainly not going to be my hot seat candidate, so I don't mind mentioning him. I think Sean McDermott might be on a bit of a hot seat going into next year because the standards have just got so high in Buffalo that every year where they false Patrick Mahomes or they fall short of even making the conference championship game is just... It's a bigger issue for them than it is for a lot of teams because they've set the bar so high. And yeah, Stephon Diggs, he doesn't like to be in one place for too long, it feels like, but he's guaranteed an awful lot of money, so it's going to be tough to move him because, he's an older wide receiver now who had a terrible, terrible second half of the season. Khalil Shakir is playing like the number one wide receiver there now. Gabe Davis is a free agent. They're probably not going to be able to, if there's any kind of market, they're probably not going to be able to re-sign him. I don't know. I just really don't like the vibes of Buffalo. Sorry, Joe.
I can see them drafting one in the first round.
Yeah,
I think that's. I'll be looking when we talk about.
And I think that's
draft.
kind of where they got banged last year, though, because they ended up moving up for Kincaid. And again, we always say, like, if they got Zay Flowers, if they got Quentin Johnson, be even in a worse spot. But if they got Zay Flowers, if they'd got JSN, even because JSN I think had an okay second half of the season, and he was in a tough spot behind Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. It's not a walk in and dominate target spot. But yeah, I think they kind of just got found wanting just a little in that round one of like, oh shit, the playmakers have run out. Let's just get the best tight end, in their opinion. They were probably wrong on that as well, as it turns out. Sam Laporta was still available. But yeah, I think they will take one round one this year. And it is, for all intents and purposes, people say it's a great rookie wide receiver class. But it's always asking a lot, though, for them to come in and hit, especially if you do lose Diggs. If you do lose Gabe Davis, who isn't perfect, but he has these big plays. See, I went with the Bills. Again, I don't think they're going to drop off like 5 or 6 wins like Paul's Browns, but like just not making the playoffs would be a huge drop for them, narrative-wise, even if not amount of games-wise.
Yeah, cool. Any other sort of honourable mentions to fall off a cliff?
It's a bit of a weird cliff because they didn't make the playoffs, but I think the Saints might be in the running for number 1 pick next year. They are roughly $90 million over the cap with very little wiggle room in terms of how to get to anywhere near zero. I don't know what kind of roster they're going to be able to put out. I could see a lot of just moving players for anything to get them off the budget. You can't too many post June 1st cuts either to spread that cap hit out. But yeah, I think Kamara's almost certainly going to go because it's just too much money for what you get for him this year. But I mean, no one's giving up a 3rd round pick even for Kamara at this stage of his career. You just wait for the Saints to cut him.
Yeah.
I just think, and they still have Dennis Allen, who is one of the least inspiring head coaches in the NFL. So yeah, they're not really falling off a cliff because they aren't on one, but I can see them ending up with 2 wins next year. Like, I can see it just being very, very ugly.
And I'm going to go for 1 just because of kind of where that. I'm going to put the Dallas Cowboys on this list. Yeah. Keep having McCarthy there as, I think, what is in essence a lame duck. He's not going to extend his contract. You've lost the coordinator. One's coming in. How badly it ended, I think it's real difficult. I think so difficult. I think for players, you bring in players in who is the coach going to be here? Just upheaval. I think this should be a mess. The Cowboys have tended to go 1 year in, 1 year out the playoffs, but they've kind of hit 3 years in a row now with 12 wins. They're due a drop off, and I think it could be a 5-6 win. Drop off. The schedule's brutal. I'm seriously worried this is going to be a big down year for the Cowboys. I just put them as honorable mention, one to watch out for. I'm not optimistic about the Cowboys in 2024. Not even although win 10, 11 games and get booted out in the playoffs, optimistic. This might be a disaster in 2024. Let's look at some positivity. Team to make one giant leap in 2024. Joe, do you want to start us off?
I'm going to, start the hype train like we do every year. I'm going to say the Chargers. And it's more because of Harbaugh rather than the actual team. I just think he's the coach who wins. And how last year ended, just making the playoffs would be a massive leap, I think, for the Chargers, especially in his first year. Again, they're a team who's, not good in the cap situation, but I feel like Harbaugh gets the best out of players. And I think some of the players who, we don't even talk about this year, could make a big leap, similar to Kid Boy's brother does in the Ravens, where every year we think, oh, they've lost all these players, what they're going to do, but then suddenly someone comes out of nowhere, like in his fourth year and is, getting sacks every week. So I'm going to say the Chargers. I don't think they're going to win the division, but I think they could win 10 or 11 games and sneak in the playoffs. And I think how this year's ended, any positivity is good for the Chargers.
Byron?
Yeah. I'll go with the Falcons. Again, I think the talent's basically all there on the roster other than the quarterback. They have to address getting a quarterback. There's a lot of, I think, reasonable veteran options. And they do pick at 8. So maybe they're out of the way for the top 3, but maybe they might move up for one of the top 3 as well. I think there's a lot of ways for them to get a reasonable quarterback this year, so they just completely ignore it, which I don't think they'll do. I like Raheem Morris. I think there's so much. People seem to just love him around the league. Seems like a real leader. He's coached on both sides of the ball. Zach Robinson seems like a smart OC hire. They have very, very good offensive weapons. The defense isn't bad at all. I think kind of just a well-rounded football team. And I think, if I had early odds on, I think they'd be one of the teams I picked to be winning the division that didn't win the division next year. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one for me, and again, probably more just kind of some of the performances late in the season. They were plucking and stuck around in games early, but when the franchise quarterback came back, late in the season, they looked a much, much different team. I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals to make a giant leap. I think they could be a wild card team next year. Not going to be good enough to win the division. Kyle looked great at times. Trey McBride is,
top 5 tight end.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, when Kyle came back, especially, was great for him. They're up at the top of the draft there. There's potential they could be a landing spot for Marvin Harrison Jr., Murray and Harrison. That would be incredible.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work to do and a lot of holes to fill. I thought Paris Johnson Jr. had a particularly good rookie year, and they've got 2 first-round picks, I think, as well.
Yeah, they've got the Texans. No, they've got the Browns, didn't they? It's like 21-ish.
Yeah. They're at 4.
They got the Texans. They got the Texans.
Yeah, because they did
get the Texans. Yeah, Texans kept hold. So 27 and 3.
Yeah. What ended up being Will Anderson,
27 and 4, sorry.
Yeah. So, I think they're in a good spot. A couple of honourable mentions. I think the Raiders, again, with how they finished, could be one to, end up winning 8 games, but I think, they could push on. It was a disaster the first half of the season, but I don't think you'll see that. Again, they've just got probably what do you need to do at quarterback? Do you roll with Aiden O'Connell, or do you take one, a Jaden Daniels potentially, a Penix,
Justin Fields.
Do you get Justin Fields, something like that? So they're interesting, and Miles one giant leap. I think the Titans could improve. No, you guys know. Okay. I think I like Will Levis. I think he could do a real good job for them. And I know they're going to be losing probably Hopkins. Henry's already said he's going to be going. I think it's just a bit of a refresh. But I think they could have a much improved year.
My only other
as well.
What was that? Sorry.
Let's say Ty J. Spears could be on for a huge season.
Yeah, I was going to mention him, and I thought that's what you'd said. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be much of a dynasty fantasy value because everyone knows his situation now. But maybe in redraft, when people aren't as when it comes to September, people aren't as hip to his name as much. I think he could be a good value certainly. My only one, and again, it's hard to say make the leap because they made the playoffs and won a playoff game, but they didn't win their division. Green Bay, I just think everything's kind of pointing up. I do have one slight thing of like, do teams have a year of tape on Jordan Love and get a bit more savvy to him? Maybe, but he has so much arm talent that, you know, I'm nominating them for this for a reason, because I think they can win the division, even with Detroit pushing on, with Minnesota maybe being stronger. And I think Chicago will be stronger. I think it'll be a strong division next year. But I think with a new defensive coordinator, I love that young receiving corps they have. And I really hope Jordan Love can take that next step and have a full season. So yeah, again, it's hard to say because they did win a playoff game. I'm not putting them as favourites to win the playoffs or anything, but or win the Super Bowl. But I just think they're a team who could make a full season jump.
Cool. Next one, we've got our final two. We've got 3 awards to go. Loads of awards. Whose idea was this? All these awards. The hottest of hot seats for 2024. Byron, do you want to start us off for this one? Which coaches are on the hottest of hot seats?
The really easy one is Mike McCarthy. You've already basically explained why. I'd be stunned if he's there this time next year. Not sure if I need to say much more.
Dumb fucking face. Right, Joe.
Yeah, I'm going to say something. I'm going to go Sirianni just because how it ended, and I think if they have another bad year, he'll be the fall guy.
I won't make it an NFC East triple, but I'm going to go Robert Saleh. Yeah, I think this has to be a success with Aaron Rodgers, and it may very well be. But if they're in the playoffs, Robert Saleh's gone.
Feels like there's quite a few on the hot seats because like you mentioned, Daboll, Bills head coach, Allen at the Saints. Feels like there's quite a few who Bears head coach as well. Yeah, so could be quite a few.
I had one that might be a bit more hot takey. Mike Tomlin.
Yeah,
I just kind of think that he might. I don't think he minds that the seat's hot. I think his contract's up next year. I think a break might be good for him, and I think the Steelers might be okay with a break as well. So I don't know if that really falls under hot seat because you're getting fired, but I think again, I wouldn't be stunned if there's a change in Pittsburgh after this season.
And also probably again, not necessarily failed, Doug Peterson. I think because of just how badly the season ended.
Yeah,
his leash has just got an awful lot shorter. Yeah, I know there can be patient people, the Khan family, but yeah, that
can't
was bad.
Be too patient.
Hey, there we go. And again, put down again just a nice little link. I'm going to kick off Last Chance Saloon if that's okay, because that touches nicely. I didn't mean to. Maybe it feels hard saying Last Chance Saloon. This is a huge year for Trevor Lawrence. 2024 is massive for Trevor Lawrence, I think. Year one, you've got the Urban Meyer excuses. He did okay. 2022, he came alive. The back end of the year led them to the playoffs, led them to that great playoff win. Trevor Lawrence was poor in 2023. Yeah, he had a load of injuries, but he was playing poorly before that. He got banged up, but they just had a stinker of a finish, and his level of quarterback play was a huge reason as to why they didn't win the division and make the playoffs in 2023. He's getting to that point where you're going to look at the extension for him. I'm not saying they don't extend him because that'd be ludicrous, but is he going to get a market resetting deal? I don't think so. I don't think he's done enough. And then where do you stand in terms of how much do you commit to him? Because if he has another rough year, it's 3 out of 4 years that he hasn't been great.
Yeah,
I think it's a huge year for Trevor Lawrence. Last chance feels harsh, but I think it's so big that he needs to really show out next year.
I mean, he was my choice.
All right, okay, cool.
So, absolute zero disagreement. As soon as you're like, oh, this is a nice segue, I'm like, no, it fucking isn't, not for me. Nice segue for you, Paul.
Okay, we'll buy you some time, Byron. Joe, who's your last chance leave?
Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry, my headphones are going a bit. Okay, you've already mentioned him, and I think it's Deshaun Watson. I feel like with what happened with Flacco at the end of the year, and just even when he played, I saw this quite a few from Browns fans who said, well, he was still 5-1, but none of the games felt like he had actually won the game. It was more the defense and you're paying him a hell of a lot of money for him to just manage a game and basically not to lose it. So I think if he has another disaster year, or if he, gets another big injury, you're looking at possibly one of the worst trades and contracts ever given and done. So I think it's a huge pressure for Deshaun Watson to actually perform. And yeah,
there was one game, and I think it's the where they came back against the Ravens in Baltimore, where I thought, oh, maybe he's back, maybe he's on to something, maybe he'll get rolling, and it just never did, because he did look good, but yeah, it just never ever looked like. And that's like, he didn't look good in that year where he came back after the suspension. And maybe there's a little bit, he only played the last few games or whatever. No excuses, really, I think, for 2023. I think he was poor. And then just, like I said earlier, Flacco showed exactly what could be got out of those weapons. And yeah, it started mucking him off a little bit, really. Byron, bought you some time. Who are you going to go for?
Yeah, two great shouts so far. Again, Trevor Lawrence was my clear number one pick. But I'm going to go for a non-quarterback. I'm going to go Stephon Diggs. We already touched on earlier, but kind of feels like not the greatest guy in the locker room at times when the chips are down. I don't know where he's going to be start of the season. I think it is going to be tough for Buffalo to trade him. He's going to be 30, going into 31 this season. It's not easy to move those kind of players on big contracts, I think this is kind of his last chance to, is he going to win a Super Bowl? Probably not in his career. And I just wonder, how does he go down with that? Because he's not been a player who's taken to bad news well throughout his career. So yeah, this is his last chance, really.
Excellent. Byron, do you want to go first up with our final award, or our nomination for a final award? Superstar in waiting for 2024.
Yeah, I'm going to go Bijan Robinson. Get rid of Arthur Smith. Incredibly talented running back who showed it in flashes last year. I just think Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson will give him a full workload. I don't think they're going to piss around giving Cordarrelle Patterson scheme touches. Tyler Algier is going to go back to being a backup that he is, and he's a 4th, 5th round pick. That's what he should be when you're behind a generational running back. And I think, I'm maybe not going to say I'm going to take him 1-1 in my fantasy drafts because Christian McCaffrey exists, but if there's enough stink on him to get him anywhere past like pick 4 in fantasy drafts, I think you're going to be looking at a league winner. He's just, built different essentially, and I think this is his chance to shine.
Joe?
Very similar. I'm going to go Jahmyr Gibbs. I think at the end of the season, he was probably the second best running back in the league, how he was performing, certainly up there. So I think with a full season of, he's got a year under his belt. He wasn't used that crazy amount last year as well. So I think he might get some more touches, and he's definitely got the talent to have a CMC kind of season with all the touchdowns and how the Lions play. So I'm going to go Jahmyr Gibbs.
I'm going to complete the lineup with running backs. We've discussed him already. I'm going to go Tyjae Spears. Obviously the King is leaving the Titans. Derrick Henry has been incredible. He's going to be leaving Tennessee. Also, we expect after kind of the way that, from what you've said. Tyjae Spears out of Tulane is absolutely electric. He showed it in flashes. Be interesting. I'd be worried if they try and do kind of what the Cowboys did with Pollard in terms of then just have him behind the yards, but you need to get him 15 touches a game. So if you have somebody else doing the hard running, and then obviously, he can rush, he can obviously catch, get him the ball in space, and he's a threat to take it to the house. So I think Tyjae Spears could have a big season, sort of 1,500 yard plus, scrimmage yards from scrimmage sort of season. I've always been a big fan of him, and I just think actually he could explore. I think there's just going to be a change in Tennessee as well around that, the style, I think, as well, from Henry. I think he's going to get the opportunity, just whether he takes it. Any honourable mentions for our final award?
I have an honourable mention, but I just wanted to.
Is it Joe?
I just wanted to back up your Spears shout there as well, because obviously I did Bill Callahan as O-line coach, which doesn't really get much better. If any positional coach is going in the Hall of Fame, Bill Callahan's as good of a shout as any. He feels like he's been the best O-line coach since I've watched football. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but it just feels like there's one.
That's not true. We had the greatest O-line coach on our show in August.
My apologies. Yeah, Well, I meant of non-guess. I didn't want to seem biased. Jesus. But yeah, that's a huge boost because the Titans O-line had issues last year. Obviously, that's Skoronski, who's a rookie, so he's going to develop, and I think had a pretty good rookie year.
Yeah.
But yeah, my honorable mention. I went with a quarterback who missed through injury, but has electric upside, league-winning upside. Anthony Richardson. Is he a project? Yes. Is Shane Steichen probably the best coach in the league to get it out of him? Probably yes. I can't wait to see him come back. Truthfully, I think we were all pretty skeptical when the Colts took him so early. Obviously, 4th pick, I believe. Yeah, it was 4th pick. But he showed splashes. Until he stops getting injured, that'll hang over him. But I'm not sure. Again, a lot of these I kind of look at towards with fantasy in my mind is like, I don't think there's going to be a quarterback you're picking where Anthony Richardson's going to end up getting drafted that has number one upside.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I'd love to, to be able to see a full 17 games out of Anthony Richardson. Yeah. I think, I was wrong. I sort of said early in the season, I was wrong. I thought it was ridiculous with the lack of experience he had and the problems that he had. But yeah, clearly there is something to work with there, and we shall see. Honourable mentions for Superstar in Waiting. For me, then, Jordan Addison. I think he had a really good year. I think he needs Kirk Cousins to stick around for that to happen, I think. The pace that they were going at, I think Jordan Addison could have ended up being, nobody would have caught Puka, but he'd been well over 1,000 yards. I think Trey McBride mentioned that with Kyler earlier at the Cardinals, and Dontavian Wicks in that young
big fan of Wicks.
Packers receiving core.
He could choose any of the wide receivers, really.
Yeah, I think all those guys are going to be good.
I love Jaden Reed and Wicks. Yeah, I think they're both. I feel it's weird because Romeo Dobbs had a good playoffs and a pretty good, 2 seasons he's had really for the guy who's pretty unheralded, and it feels like he's kind of the odd man out already because Watson's kind of your pure deep threat guy. Jaden Reed is Debo light, and Wicks, he just shone in that second half of the season. I do have kind of a bit of an unusual one here. Maybe it's not unusual, you can tell me, but a potential future Cardinal that you already mentioned. Marvin Harrison, I think, is just going to come in and take the league by storm. So does that count as a superstar in waiting because he's not in the league yet? But
he needs a good spot. Like if he goes to the Patriots, I'd be worried for him.
Yeah,
but yeah, he needs to land in a good spot. And Chicago wouldn't be bad if they go with keep Fields, or if they obviously have got a second pick to play with if they end up packaging it up and trading.
I just don't see how it doesn't end up as Arizona, though, truthfully.
Yeah.
The first 3 need to go quarterback.
Yeah.
I'd be stunned if they don't. And then surely Cardinals can't go best or lineman over, again, what is almost certainly a generational wide receiver.
Yeah. I think Kyler would love to have Marvin Harrison Jr. as well. Gents, that brings us to the end
of year 1.
Full year one.
Yeah,
full year 1. We'll just call the other part a pilot. This is true season 1 of good teams and great teams cover. And you know what? It's been an absolute blast. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun. It's been a learning experience like no other. Doing this. I've got a couple of people. Well, I don't want to read the list, but just people to thank. And if you've got any guys, please shout them out. Every guest that came on, we had guests every single week from week 1 all the way through to our Super Bowl preview. You made those preview shows. I sent a tweet out with thanking everyone the other day. Brilliant. And that's helped us, connect and create some great relationships already that we hope will continue into 2024 and beyond. You guys, thank you, Byron, Joe. This wouldn't happen without you two committing to it. This started with me recording episodes on my own on my phone 12 months ago. So, you guys have made this and brought it to life. So thank you so much for committing your time and everything that you do, whether it's with the post, Joe, the graphics you do, massively improving the Instagram uptake that we've got as well. Byron with the TikTok stuff, the Charlie being a big part of what we do now as well is awesome. So thank you guys. And to everybody that's listened, watched, followed, interacted, commented, posted, reposted, retweeted, whatever. Thank you.
Big in Jordan, big in Kenya.
Big in Jordan, big in Kenya, yeah. So that was it. That's all I would say. Gents, what about you?
I mean, cheers for organising it all, Paul. Obviously. You know, I know it started out as your solo venture. But yeah, I was always happy to come on, and then delighted we made it as a permanent free, I think. I think it's been a real nice team effort, truthfully. And, you know, I put in the chat there, like, Joe does all the graphics, Joe does the Instagrams, socials, and all the rest of it. I'm like, what the fuck do I do? I'll just jab a shit on here. But I was like, oh, yeah, I have a dog who's on IR. But he gets his stitches out and he's corn off tomorrow. So just in time for the XFL season, UFL season. So
we are not doing UFL content.
No, even I don't watch the UFL, and I am a sicko. But no, yeah, cheers for running it. And again, cheers to all the guests. Obviously, they make it such a great time to network and meet all these cool new people. You know, I don't want to name names especially, but I remember just towards the end of the season, like spending time in Graham's man cave or his fan shed, whatever he called it, was badass. Getting a little tour of it before our show was real cool. So yeah, I can't wait for season 2.
Yeah, no, just similar to Barry. Thanks to you, Paul, for organising it, keeping us on track, make sure everything's set up. And big shout out to Bet365 and DraftKings for giving us money for all our bets. So thank you very much.
Yeah, nice. If you want to reach out and do some sort of partnership, don't hesitate to. And I've got 2 more to thank, actually. Gamete and the guys down at Fantasy Game Day that we're in partnership with. Thank you. Hopefully we will get you more people to play Fantasy Game Day than we did this year. But that's going to grow. And, you know, it's all, you know, they've been running it all through the playoffs as well. It's cool to have something that we don't have to go to America for. You know, we don't have to use DraftKings. You know, DraftKings is here, but we don't have to use DraftKings. Actually, we've got something that's our own and it's been made by guys here who understand the fans here a bit more, which is awesome. So yeah, follow those guys and support them as much as you can because they're doing a great job. And there's one last person to thank, and we've mentioned it at various points over the, or I have mentioned it at various points over the podcast. One person we wouldn't be here and continuing to doing this if it wasn't for, and that was a gentleman called Dan Harris who ran and was the founder and runner and did all the jobs needed to run a YouTube channel of the Let's Talk Sports Network. I don't think if he wouldn't have continued to push, and he did, he's a very pushy guy at times, but in a real good way, about kind of being able to, you know, get out there a bit more and speak to more people and get involved in his network and run more shows and do the bits that we did on the Let's Talk Sport Network in the summer. We might have not built up the momentum to keep going and to practice as much as we had done. And just really cool that Dan gave us the opportunity to talk ball and talk other stuff. Like, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's really cool. And he was lovely enough to believe in us and think, actually, I think what you've got is really, really good and I want to help and want to be a part of it. And he will forever be a huge part of what we've done at Good Teams and Great Teams Cover because we'd have never got it off the ground without him. So sadly, Dan passed back in September, but always appreciative, always grateful. And thanks very much, Dan. We do appreciate you and love you very much. So we're going to roll on into season 2, though, which is going to be awesome. We're going to take a little break. I think we've deserved it. It's going to take a break, and we'll be back when the new league year starts. So around mid-March time, when free agency starts, we'll kind of have a look at the first waves of free agency. We're going to do loads of draft content as well. We're going to do a people's draft, so we're going to get hopefully 32 guests to make draft picks. I've started trying to organise that already. It's going to be chaos. So we've got that coming up. We'll do other mock drafts. Will probably be live night 1 of the draft. And then we've got our own Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover drafts that we'll do over the summer. State of the Division series, betting previews. And before we know it, we'll be in the first week of September and football will be back. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Onwards and upwards to season 2. If you're not following us on all of our channels, go do it. Spotify, Good Teams and Great Teams Cover. We're working to get it out on the other podcast networks where you can get it. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, X, TikTok, soon to be Rumble, at GTW_GTC. Go and subscribe, and we'll see you in a few weeks' time. Happy off season.